I want you to give your top 5 Steven Spielberg directed films. I know Pete was struggling with that because he wanted to include produced films because that would have enabled some other films. But what are your top 5 directed Steven Spielberg films? Pete, we'll start with you.
Number 5, Catch Me If You Can.
Nice.
It was different. The tone of it was different. Even the opening music was something that I've never seen before with a Spielberg movie, and I thought the casting was great. I think Tom Hanks in anything is gold, and then you sprinkle in some Leo is great. And it was just a great cat and mouse movie, and I thought at the time it was brilliant. Number 4, Jurassic Park. I think that was the most innovative movie at the time. It was the first time they really brought in CGI graphics into a live action movie at that level.
Yeah.
And they pulled it off. Technology was finally there with storytelling, and it actually made it look real and beautiful. Number 3 was Last Crusade, because how could you not love that movie? How could you not add Sean Connery to Indiana Jones and not have it be amazing? Number 2, E.T., because it was the first movie I actually cried at as a young child, and it was important.
It's not hard for you because you cried at
almost hard. I cried at lots of movies. And number 1 for me, no offense, is Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think it was, for me, it was. And Jaws, I get it. Jaws was incredible, but I don't know. For me, Raiders was much more impactful on my life and how I view.
Well, you didn't go to the ocean for 6 years, so I would say Jaws was pretty impactful for you. But
I don't like the water, although I love archaeology.
Yeah.
So there you go.
All right.
That's my number 1.
Lawrence, what are your top 5 Steven Spielberg films?
All right. Are we going 5 to 1?
Yeah, 5 to 1.
Build up. Okay.
Yeah.
So for number 5, Catch Me If You Can. I think that was a great movie. I just rewatched that one maybe about a month ago. Totally. It's kind of one of those movies, like if I catch it like halfway on, like if it's on like cable or something, I'll just like finish it. Like, all right, I guess I'm here for the next hour. Just finishing it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good one. Yeah, same thing. Tom Hanks. Plus, I love Tom Hanks. You know, like he's to me like my probably number 1 guy as far as from like childhood to now. Like I can get into his movies. Yeah. And Leo. I mean, you know, say what you want about Leo. He's had some pretty good movies. Actually,
he's got a ton of great movies.
Yeah. Number 4, Temple of Doom.
Interesting.
That's my go-to Indiana Jones film.
Can't argue with you.
I you know, and like you said, because it sparked something as a child. Like I remember watching that. Me, my sister, my best friend, and his sister. We spent a whole summer together, and that was like one of the movies that we had on VHS, and like having to rewind it. And I think it was like a bad quality, but we still watched it like every other day that summer. And you know, like it was an adventure. Like I said, those adventure movies.
That's good you said that, and said, it was a summer we all tried to rip each other's hearts out, and it was just like one of those things.
It was, but
thank God you went that route.
We had a whole when I lived in England, we had this backyard that had this like, we tried to have our own adventures. Basically, we were like, man, I think he's gonna let a neighbor across the way, and then we think that something's going. We had a crazy cat lady neighbor that we had all these theories about, so it just kind of sparked that whole thing. But moving on, number 3, I put Jaws.
Of course,
you know, it's just like I remember it as a child. I haven't watched it probably in probably like 10 years or so at least, but I just remember like I can remember distinctly being like at like on a well watching as a kid and thinking like we're in the middle of nowhere. Did you ever go well watching that field trip? Anyone else ever do that? So it was like that, like, man, this could like happen. Like this isn't a very big boat, and this boat is smaller than the boat they were on. And Jaws took that whole thing down. Number 2, Jurassic Park. Yeah, same thing. The technology was there. It still holds up for the most part, I would say. You know, especially knowing like, especially knowing, you know, even it was early 90s, right? 93, 94. I think that movie came out. And it looks great. It looks great. I mean, it was kind of the same lines of Indiana Jones with what's his name? What's the guy's name? Michael Grant, right? Or what was his name? Grant. I know the actor Samuel. Anyways, great movie. Like you said, it holds up. The story's good. It was like one of those like I remember watching that in Laverne at the this is like when the big cineplexes started happening, not just like the one or two theaters, and like the THX sound, like the and I remember like watching it, and then like that brontosaurus scene where they're like stomping. It was just so loud and crazy. Like you kind of felt like this is where it's at. And the number one, Saving Private Ryan. That movie was just like,
that was. I didn't know how to make that number 5 and not Catch Me If I Can. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that movie is just. I mean,
it was an important movie.
It's an important movie. I mean, that first scene alone, I could probably like. I mean, it's very like grotesque, I guess, if you're kind of just pure violence. But it's just like you kind of felt like you had to duck behind the little, you know what I mean? Like you felt like, oh my God, I got to dodge these bullets too. Like I'm in the theater, like watching this movie. Because I remember at the same time, A Thin Red Line came out, like not too long after that. And I was like, this movie Thin Red Line has nothing on Saving Private Ryan at all. It was just like, you really felt like you were kind of involved in this mission, so to speak, like the way it was shot. Like I said, that scene, I know it wasn't just obviously one continuous shot for that opening scene, but it felt like you were just like literally a soldier that was thrown in there, and you were kind of like moving along with these guys as they were kind of like, they got to the beach and now they're kind of getting to land, and you really felt like I made it, like I was one of the lucky ones that made it through, and then everything's kind of all said and done, and we survived that part of the campaign, and then obviously
it's crazy that most people don't remember that that's not the actual into that movie. It's like the real first scene that kind of gets you. There's
because it goes into the flash, because he goes to the flashback, right? That's how it starts.
There's not a more immersive first scene that I can think of off the top of my head than Saving Private Ryan. Like you feel like you're part of that war. Forget about the Matt Damon as an old person right before that, but that's the real. That's why, man, that's such a good. I wish it was in my top 5. I just couldn't place it in there. Nostalgia
and just
took over.
and just how it kind of like, they did all that, and then like obviously Matt Damon's character was the guy that ends up being the guy at the end, but you would think like, man, all these guys are gonna make it. At least Tom Hanks, like that's the main guy, and he doesn't even, like, they did all that for him to not even like make it out of the war, so it was just kind of like, that's just how real war was. Like, your luck has to kind of play is involved with it, with obviously some of the skill that these guys have to go through as soldiers, but a lot of luck, you know what I mean? Like, you just have to kind of be in the right place at the right time, or
thank God I wasn't
the first position over here.
Thank God I was in the first 6 people when they first opened up that boat, right?
Yeah, right.
Thank God I was number 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want that job.
Had nothing to do with your character or what you had to do with the story or anything. It was just like, if you were 1 through 6, fucking done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a fun way to go.
All right.
What are yours, Paul?
Yeah. So my number 5, and this is probably going to cause a large uproar, but I'm going off of how many times I've seen it and like we'll continue to watch it, is Minority
Report. Oh my God. I don't know why.
Yeah. If I see it on, I watch it. I'm entertained by it. Yeah.
It's good.
It's just a super entertaining film.
I can imagine Tom Hanks just doing that. Like,
it's not top 5 good, but it's good.
Yeah.
I'm not Tom Hanks. Good. Tom Cruise just kind of doing it without the effects. Like, how crazy must it look?
Right.
So yeah, I don't necessarily like how it looks. There's a lot I don't necessarily like about it, but it's just a good, entertaining film. And
I love the movie.
I was debating E.T. or Jaws and all that. It's like I don't watch those movies that much, and that's why I give Minority Report the edge, is because I watch it more than those ones. So
right.
My number 4 is Jurassic Park, like you guys mentioned. It's the music, the cinematography, the balance of CGI and practical, because I think that was key too. They didn't just do CGI. It was a good mix of balance, and it's still the best Jurassic Park. Number 3.
Fun fact really quick. I gotta throw this in. My friend had that on Laserdisc, Jurassic Park, so I did watch a lot. Laser disc was this big, huge.
Yeah, it was this big.
My number 3, Saving Private Ryan, for all the reasons you just mentioned. It's obviously one of the greatest war films of all time. And my number 2, this is a sleeper right here, guys. Hook.
What?
I thought about Hook.
I love Hook. I just
Yeah.
watched it again, like not that long ago.
It's
Again,
innovative for sure.
the music and you know, you're doing it, Peter, you're doing it. You know, obviously I
It
always
was
say
the
that.
first instance, really. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong. You can think of something before this where they take a known character and say, "What happens after?"
Yeah. So I always bought into that.
It's innovative.
Movie
We've done
always
it a
worked
million
for me.
times since.
I know it got ripped. Critics ripped it, and it didn't do that great in the box office. But I'll tell you what, TBS, you throw on some Hook, you got
That would
me.
be a good number 5.
I'm hooked.
That would be a good number 5 on your list.
Yeah. I'm going off of watchability and how I gotta watch Hook probably every year. You know what I mean? And I'm just based off my instincts. And
Right.
then number 1, of course, I'm cheating here, but it's Indiana Jones. It's Raiders of the Lost Ark and or The Last Crusade. But I actually like Last Crusade more than Raiders of the Lost Ark, only because I love the Holy Grail. I think it's for all the reasons that we kind of pointed out, the issues of this initial story. The Last Crusade, you add Sean Connery and the dynamic between the two, the humor, like it's just I think to me it's a cleaner film because I think they knew what they were doing and they knew what they had.
Interesting that none of us picked his like 2 top sort of social kind of movies, which were like Schindler's List or Amistad, you know, that really delved into like some
I thought
real
of Schindler's List.
actual
I thought of that
Yeah,
one.
I almost
Yeah.
put that Schindler's List as number
didn't
5.
even end up on any of our lists.
And the only reason why I didn't is because
Interesting.
it's a very powerful film, and I don't watch it that much because it's like,
Too heavy.
yeah, it's just heavy. It's like, do you want to be depressed today? Yeah, let's put on some Schindler.
Yeah. No,
You
I
know,
get that.
And
But in terms
Amistad's
of-
Amistad's the same. It's
They're both very well done.
tougher- Yeah, I like
and they
Amistad.
make you go, "Poof, man, people are fucked up."
Yeah,
You know, it's like they finally had put some imagery behind what actually went on.
for sure.
A movie that I struggled not putting in my top 5 because I really love it, but I couldn't justify putting in my top 5 was Ready Player One. I love that movie,
Yeah, same.
but it couldn't be in my top 5.
A lot of people
and
don't
I
like
will
that
say-
one for some reason, but I like it.
I will say honorable mentions, even though he didn't direct them, are like Back to the Future, Goonies, Super 8. I thought was great, and
Super 8's great.
young Sherlock Holmes. I thought was incredible.